Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's first video. That will take us to around the 28th of November. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. They run through a couple of weeks, taking us into the beginning of December, and we'll have a look at CFSV2 at the end of the video. For the next month, that takes us well into December, of course. Also, we'll begin by seeing what's going on in the stratosphere. There are hints of a major southern stratospheric warming perhaps taking place over Siberia at the beginning of December. It's very extended range stuff, but we'll have a look and see the latest forecast from the GFS. So, going to have you guys shortly. Just say that the second video coming up this evening is going to be the 7th Christmas update. We're up to update number 7 for the Christmas updates, and 7th one of those will be with you tonight. Now, if we do anything else, we're going to say a big thank you to our latest patron. So we are now up to 66 patrons, and hello and a big thank you to all of our wonderful patrons. So our 66th patron, our latest patron, is Jonathan Hamilton. Big thank you to Jonathan Hamilton for becoming our latest patron for Gaz Office. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for doing that. So if you'd like to become a patron for Gaz Office, all you need to do is come to the Gaz Office Patreon page, sign up for a Patreon account if you don't already have one, and then give an ongoing monthly donation to Gaz Office. It could be anything from $1 a month upwards. You pool in with all of the other patrons, and so that's how you become a patron for Gaz Office. You're helping us to pay for the website, gazoffice.com, and keep content online. Alternatively, you can become a donor for Gaz Office through PayPal. So this is the Gaz Office PayPal page. It's really simple. You just come here, sign into your PayPal account. Most people have one of those these days, of course, and then give a donation to Gaz Office. It could be anything, any amount that you want. And again, by becoming a donor for Gaz Office, you're going to get a mention in the video. So whether you do it through Patreon or whether you do it through PayPal, we're going to give you a mention. We'll say thank you very much for that as long as you want one. So a big thank you to all of our donors, a big thank you to all of our patrons, and a special thank you to our latest patron, Jonathan Hamilton. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for becoming our latest patron. Right, so let's get on video. I'm going to start off with the stratosphere. So this is the current situation in terms of the temperature at 10 HPA over the Arctic. They're at meteoseal.fr. So where we've got these blue and purple colours, these are the cold temperatures at 10 HPA. Of course, it's a very cold time of year up there in the stratosphere. Due to the fact that we're into the winter. A little bit colder than average, actually, for this time of the year. If we run through, we can see that in the next few days we keep those blue colours going, so we keep the cold temperatures to 10 HPA in the stratosphere up to 26th of November, just beginning to get a little bit displaced towards the Atlantic side of the Arctic. Perhaps slight warming occurring over the Pacific side, but still generally, or the Asian side, but still generally looking quite cold. Now, as we go through into extended range, this is the latest GFS run, by the way. As we go through into extended range, there's that warming again showing up around Siberia around the 1st to 2nd of December. That's not quite reaching southern stratospheric warming levels. For me, to reach southern stratospheric warming levels, we need to get red colours appearing. But it is a very major and significant warming of the stratosphere that is being forecast again by the GFS for the opening days of December. This is becoming a very, very consistent theme with the GFS at the moment. The midnight GFS run, the first run today, actually took that even further and did develop it into a very significant southern stratospheric warming. So this is from the midnight run. Again, you can see those greens, yellows and oranges appearing on the 1st of December. But actually, look how that develops further into the 2nd and up to the 3rd of December. We get the red colours then on this run appearing. That is reaching genuine southern stratospheric warming levels and already starting to show signs of pushing into the Arctic, into the pole from Siberia. So that's a definite southern stratospheric warming. This one on the latest GFS run is a major warming of the stratosphere, probably just a little bit shy of genuine southern stratospheric warming levels. But of course, we could roll on another day. It would probably go to this sort of level anyway. So all eyes will be on the stratosphere over the next few days with the updates. We're keeping a very, very close eye on this. It's turning to a very consistent theme from the GFS at the moment. It's extended range. But remember, this is extended range. It's 2 weeks away. So it's as unreliable as any other extended range, 2-week time frame charts that we might look at with the GFS. So just going to keep an eye on it. We'll be monitoring it over the next few days and see where it goes. This is the 500 millibar high anomaly flowchart from Penn State University for the ECMWF. I would normally say I've got ECM on the top and the GFS on the bottom, but today we actually don't have the GFS on the bottom, but we have got the ECM on the top, so we'll have a look at that. This is taking us to day 10, which is the 28th of November. Looks unsettled, going for below average heights in the Atlantic, quite a deep trough of low pressure to our west, a ridge of above average heights to our east and southeast. So flowing the jets going something like that. It's unsettled. We're driving rain in from off the Atlantic with those areas of low pressure. But the difference compared to what we've had through much of this November is that temperatures are milder because we are bringing up the air from the middle of the Atlantic as opposed to the North Atlantic. So the air is originating down here somewhere. So milder, but still unsettled for the final week of November appears to be portrayed at the moment. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. Looking at Worksop in the Midlands today. So this is another suggested location for this section of video. If you'd like to have your local town or city featured within this part of the video, then please let us know either through the comments at GazWebIds or through our social media accounts, Facebook and Twitter, or you can email gazwebids@gmail.com. So we're starting off pretty cold at the moment. Temperatures are going to stay generally depressed over the next 2 or 3 days. But in the second half of the week, they do get a lift up around Thursday, Friday. Actually, by the time you get through to the weekend and the beginning of next week, we go much milder. Probably not lasting all that long. It looks like the temperatures then start to fall back during the closing days of November, perhaps into the start of December, although there's a lot of scatter in that period. But the definite trend over the next week to 10 days is starting cold and getting milder. You will notice there is a huge amount of scatter by the start of December. That's this period just here. These ensemble members down here are really quite cold. These ones up here are very mild, and looks like there's something like a 20 degree or more temperature differential between the mildest and coldest ensemble members there. So really, really uncertain as we get through to the beginning of December what's happening. But certainly for the next week to 10 days, the trend is going milder. As far as precipitation is concerned, so we've got a relatively dry 3 or 4 days coming up to the second half of the week, but then it's getting more unsettled. The rainfall spikes are coming back for the final week of November, looking quite wet and potentially lasting into the opening days of December too. Temperature anomalies from the 18th to the 26th of November are around average. Northern areas still a little bit colder than average. England, Wales, maybe ever so slightly on the milder side of average. It's not a big deviation. I think we say that from the 18th to 26th of November, the temperature anomaly is about normal. But these will probably trend milder in the days ahead. Don't be surprised if they do. Precipitation anomalies looking drier than average for Scotland and some parts of northern England. Average to above average though for the rest of England, and particularly down towards Wales and southwest England, looking quite wet there from the 18th to the 26th of November. That's how the GFS is looking for Thursday. This is when it's starting to turn more unsettled, but you notice the ice bars are pushing up from the south, so it is getting less cold in the second half of the week, but this low pressure out of the Atlantic will bring showery bursts of rain. It turns more unsettled into the weekend. This low coming up from the south could bring a bit of a soaking as we move into the weekend, and then we've got this next low heading in towards Ireland Sunday through to Monday next week. That again could bring quite a bit of rain with it. Increasingly unsettled then as we move into next week. So this is Wednesday 27th of November. We have a 975 millibar area of low pressure sitting to the northwest of Scotland and a secondary low across northern France. So just the idea that it's getting more and more unsettled again, probably with a return of the deluge as we go into the last week of November, unfortunately. Get a little bit of a cold snap as well. So this is Thursday 28th. This low is to our north and also another low to our west. By Friday the 29th, those lows have zipped across the country, and as they clear away, they pull the winds into the north. So that brings a cold snap from the north as we go into the final couple of days of November. And staying cold actually just to the beginning of December as well, with winds generally from a northerly direction, could bring wintry showers, and for northern areas as well, the chance of some fairly significant snowfalls, I would have thought, with that across northern Scotland. It's not long, though, before the southwesters are coming back, and that's how we finish up with this GFS run on Wednesday, the 4th of December. We're bringing up a much milder southwesterly flow then. So only a little cold snap at the end of November, and then we're back into milder stuff once again. This is how the GM is looking, and again, we've got low pressure out to our west on Thursday, starting to bring unsettled weather back, but also bringing some milder air with it. As we go through to Friday and into the weekend, the idea is that low pressure becomes increasingly influential again, so it's turning wetter over the weekend and into the early part of next week. We keep these unsettled conditions going right way up to day 10, more areas of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, with further spells of rain. And at day 10, which is again is 28th of November, that is starting to hint at a little bit of a cold snap maybe as these low pressures progress eastwards and possibly turn winds into the north. This is how the ECM is looking. So again, it looks rather unsettled on Thursday. Low pressure developing out to west of Ireland. Winds are turning into the south, so it's becoming milder, but also getting more unsettled too. Not quite unsettled over the weekend though. Actually, under a little bit of a ridge there on Sunday, so not quite as unsettled over the weekend. But early next week, then we start to drive these low pressures back in off the Atlantic. Winds always coming from the southwest though, so it will be relatively mild next week on the ECM solution, but turning more unsettled too. We can actually have a look at the precipitation forecast, rainfall forecast from that ECM row. We're at tameteo.com, and mainly dry day coming up today, and this dry weather is actually going to go on into tomorrow as well. Some rain threatening into the west tomorrow, but most places staying dry. This rain sort of being held at bay in the Irish Sea for a few days, and this goes on into the middle of the week as well. But then in the second half of the week, see, it is starting to turn a little bit more showery in the north and in the west of the country. Not desperately unsettled though. That gets us to the 22nd, with low pressure then beginning to bring some heavier rain perhaps in towards southwestern parts of England. And then we go through the weekend. Again, not particularly unsettled over the weekend. Some showery bursts in the northwest, but a fair amount of dry weather for central, southern and east areas. I think the GEM and the GFS are more unsettled for this weekend than the ECM, definitely. But into next week, then it starts to turn more definitively unsettled. Look, here comes the bands of much heavier rain as we move into next week, turning much wetter again next week as we head up towards day 10. With lots of really heavy rain piling in from off the Atlantic. So, yes, I think we're looking at a reasonable amount of dry weather to around Thursday, Friday. It turns showery. Uncertainty about the weekend. How unsettled will it be? Could be very unsettled even over the weekend. Then next week, it does look as though it's going to turn much more unsettled. This is the option that's on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which is the 28th of November. So we have 51 out of 51 members of the ECM ensembles, all of them, including the control and the operational run, looking very, very unsettled by day 10. Low pressure is well and truly back in control of the weather. So probably a return of a deluge by the time we get through to the last week of November. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This is the 3rd of December. Have 18 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure to our west and northwest. They're unsettled, bringing in winds from the southwest. 14 with low pressure out in the Atlantic and a ridge to our east-southeast. So that's going to be a drier solution and quite mild too. We'd be pulling up winds from a southwesterly direction with that. 14 with high pressure over the top of the country. And then 5 with a mid-Atlantic ridge heading up towards Greenland and low pressure over or just ever so slightly to our east-southeast. That's the coldest option. That will bring in the winds from the north. That could be a bit of a cold snap similar to what the GFS is showing for early December. So a lot of options by the time we get through to December. Looks like we're going to end November on a very unsettled note. We may then start to transition back to something a little bit more anticyclonic again by the beginning of December. And there could be a cold snap involved in that too. Finally, just having a look at CFS-V2, these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly pairs. The first weekly pair will take us from the 18th to the 24th of November. The coming week will have a ridge to our east, northeast, and a trough to our west and southwest. This brings up winds from a southerly to southeasterly direction. So it's not as unsettled as it has been, but certainly for southern and western areas, there will be risk of rain at times, and it's a milder week too. Week 2 is looking like this. It's 25th of November to the 1st of December. Low pressure band is further away from us, out to our west. High pressure is over Scandinavia. So that, again, probably reasonably dry with that solution, although it could be a bit unsettled to the southwest. Jet streams going down, something like that. We could be pulling in a rather chilly east to southeasterly wind with that one. Week 3, also looking quite anticyclonic. This would be 2nd to the 8th of December, with above average heights over much of northern and western Europe. So high pressure in control there. The model, if we looked at temperature anomaly, which we won't, but if we did, the model would say mild or very mild. Of course, under that ridge of high pressure, it could be colder on the surface with a risk of frost and fog. And then finally in week 4, which is the 9th to the 15th of December, turning unsettled again. Low pressure out to our north and west. High pressure from the Azores in towards the Med. A very flat west-southwesterly flow. That's just mild, wet and windy as we go into the second week of December. So there's a little bit of uncertainty here for the rest of November and into the beginning of December. Now, what we can say definitively is that the next few days are going to be quite dry. We are going to dry out over the next 2, 3, 4 days. Probably turn showery at the end of the week. Uncertainty really from the weekend. Will the weekend be mainly on the dry side, or will it start to turn unsettled as early as the weekend? And then next week, we've got a discrepancy between the short range, which is actually keen to bring back the deluge through next week, through the last week of November, versus what we just saw with the CFS, which is much more anticyclonic from beginning to end, really, and wants things to be relatively dry. Certainly for the last week of November and the first week of December. There are a couple of much drier weeks with the CFS before it probably goes unsettled again as we head up to the middle of December. So there is a lot of uncertainty with this, and all will be revealed over the next few days, I'm quite sure. But my guess is that next week will be quite a lot more unsettled than the CFS was hinting at there. And then, of course, all eyes will be what's happening on in the stratosphere as well for the beginning of December. So there'll be a lot to keep an eye on in the videos in the next few days. I'm quite sure about that. Right, so that's it for update number 1. Today, video number 1. We'll be back tonight with the 7th Christmas update. So we'll have a bit of a laugh, have a bit of fun, and see what the CFS is showing for Christmas. Again, tonight that'll be around 7 o'clock. That's all for now, though, and thanks for watching.